Well, good evening, folks. I don't know if we'll need the microphones very long, but I want to thank you all for coming. I'm Barry Rubin. I'm president of your Treasure Island and Madeira Beach Chamber of Commerce. And we wanted to welcome you tonight for our town hall. So in full disclosure, I wanted to just start out by saying, we can sit.
Okay,
Vice Mayor, we
thank
don't
you.
have to stand. So in full disclosure, I just want to let everybody know we spoke today. When I say we, I mean I spoke today to Vice Mayor's opponent, and I asked him if he would reconsider and come to tonight. He asked, actually, he said he would prefer to do one of these on his own as well, so we're in the process of looking into that. We don't have a lot of time. We have 9 days now till Election Day, so I just wanted to let everyone know that what happened there. He was unable to make it this evening, or he chose not to, and we respect and appreciate that opinion, but we'll see if we can accommodate him otherwise. But in the meanwhile, let's just get to know Vice Mayor Andrews. So
Thank you, Barry.
That's why we're here. So what we'll do, I guess, is there's really not a set program here because we really hope to have a debate. I guess you and I can debate.
We could.
So I would never do that. I would have no chance. I don't like to lose. So I'd get home tonight and I'd be like, damn, I should have said that. But so it's a good opportunity to sit down and just get to know you a little bit better, and I think that's what we all would like to do. So we're also going to have the opportunity to ask questions. So if you have a question, please see Jill in the back. Just jot your question down. We'll come over to you with a microphone and you can ask your question. The reason we ask you to write the questions down is I've done more of these than I care to mention, and often, if not more so than the rule than the exception, someone will change their question midstream, or they'll ask a question that they know they really shouldn't ask, and we're going to try to just avoid that. When you put yourself out in the public life, you deserve better than that, and I think that's what we're going to make sure that everybody's treated fairly, regardless of who the candidate is. Regardless of who's sitting across from me, we would treat them exactly the same. So let's get started. So 2 terms on city council, or city commission as they call it here in Madeira Beach. And before that, you had worked for the recreation department.
Correct.
Let's go back a little further. So let's talk about the start. School days, growing up in New Jersey.
Oh, well, let's say I was a grumpy child. No, I grew up in New Jersey, down on the Jersey Shore, and made my way down here for college. I graduated from Stetson University. After college, for some reason, I went back up there. I always knew I'd end up back here. It took me a little longer than I wanted to, but made it my way back up. Worked in Jersey for a while. Got transferred out to Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Then I ended up in D.C., where I spent the D.C. area, where I spent most of my big boy years. Got down here about 12 years ago. Settled in. I just sold my portion of a company and was kind of just looking around and having fun, and decided I was not only too young to retire, but didn't have enough money to do so. So I looked into a bunch of different franchises, and I got about 5 blocks from my house was a 7-Eleven. And after reading about 30 risk disclosure documents of other things, and at the time in 2011, 2012, the economy was still a little shaky, so I decided to buy somebody else's revenue. And from there, it's all kind of history. We've been able to kind of turn around that entire area there, gotten a better clientele involved, and we still have the old clientele, don't get me wrong, but we've gotten a little higher end clientele coming in, and it's turned into a great investment. So that's where I sit right now.
Well, good. So Lancaster County, that's interesting. So
Yes.
you're not Amish.
I am not Amish. Yeah, it was great. I didn't know, when I first got the promotion, I didn't know whether a promotion or a demotion. I was like, I'm going where? And I didn't have any idea where Lancaster was at the time. So, but it ended up being just a couple hours from where I grew up. So I was able to go back and forth quite a bit, but, because I was still coming back home to see family. But again, I always knew I'd end up down here. My great-grandparents and then my parents actually and my grandparents wintered up the road here off of Bay Pine. So I've been coming to Madeira Beach my whole life. So I luckily had the opportunity to settle here.
Well, good for you. So let me ask you, Vice Mayor, what motivated you originally to run for office?
I hear this question 8 times a day. It's not really phrased that way. What the hell's wrong with you? But, when I first ran, I ran 4 years ago. And it was after I was been let go from the recreation center. And I saw what was going on after that election in 2017. And, they were, and this isn't braggadocious, but I'm probably one of the most uniquely qualified candidates ever to run for this office because, there's 3 cogs to any real city. You have your citizens, you have your administration, you have your businesses. Well, I've owned a business for 11 years. I've lived here for 12, and I've worked in some capacity for the city for the better part of a decade. So, whether that was serving on being the vice chair of the Civil Service Commission, being the rec director, being commissioner, being vice mayor, I've seen kind of all aspects of the city from that regard. So I'm pretty well in tune with what was going on. And when I was watching what was happening during those first few months of that 2017 election, where it was all agenda driven, they came in with a hit list and they were just getting rid of employees one right after another. And it was depleting what we had built for a long time. And, luckily, we were lucky because when I won my seat on the board, it was a nightmare. My first year, they wouldn't even let me put things on the agenda. I mean, they were voting down everything I tried to put on the agenda, which, was one of the things when Mayor Hendricks and Happy got onto the board. I said, look, I don't care if you're for or against anything. You were voted in. You were an elected official. You want to talk about something, you got your 5 minutes. Knock yourself out and talk about it. If you want to vote it down, that's fine. But we were being, it was just kind of being shunned. And that was, so my initial motivation was, I'm not going to call it revenge, but I just wanted to honestly get a fair government going on here. And, like I said, with the help of a lot of people and with the leadership of our current mayor, we've been able to do that. We've been able to clean up the mess from those years. And this city's on one of the best trajectories I've ever seen. And if you looked at the Beach Beacon after the only debate that we publicized debate we had, apparently my opponent agrees. I mean, it was bashing the city. Then all of a sudden he turned around and said, what a great job the city manager and the staff is doing. And this department's doing great and this department's doing great. So I'm not really sure where he stands on a lot of issues. But my stance hasn't changed. If you look, and somebody posted my video from 2019, my election video, it's pretty much the same as my election video in this year, in 2023. We're still looking at the same things. We're still moving forward. We're at the beach, guys. I mean, we're in the greatest community on the face of the earth. So I'm excited. I'm excited what, hopefully these next 3 years are going to bring. I think we've got some tasks that we've started. We've got some grant money that, we want to see come to fruition. We've got a new parking garage that is going to yield revenues from not just now and pay for itself on the backs of tourists. We've got a lot of great things going on. I want to see them come to fruition.
So obviously there's some wonderful things happening in Madeira Beach, and it's a testament to not only this commission and this mayor, but who've come before and who will come after, I'm sure. One of the hot topics now in every election in Madeira Beach, at least as long as I've been here, the 30 years that I've been here, or nearly 30 years, and at the beach across the beaches, not just here, sure, is development, obviously. And I knew you knew that topic was going to come up, and it's highly contested now. Basically, your stance on development, if you want to just get that out there, sure, and how can your position live with happily with everybody else? So there's some folks, not everybody else. So the other side, let's put it that way.
Oh, man, I thought we were going to escape that question tonight. Look, every election, this is the hottest topic that comes up. And it doesn't matter whether there's stuff going on or stuff's not going on. Everybody has an opinion on it. And the problem is, we get people that are putting misinformation out there and people are accepting it as Bible. And that's the problem. If you really want to know, get the facts and learn what's going on before it's Armageddon. So my stance on development is very simple, okay? I don't want Clearwater Beach here any more than anybody else does. We're all about law and order here. Everything has to go through a process. And it doesn't matter, and we're not going to bulldoze over Johns Pass either. That's not happening either. So one of the things that keeps coming up is, oh my gosh, these guys approved this Johns Pass Activity Center, okay, activity zone. And I keep going, okay, so people don't really understand the nuances of it and what it's all about, because what you're reading online is there's going to be 1,880 hotel rooms put in Johns Pass. They're going to bulldoze the whole pass and put 1,880 hotel rooms. So to give a little perspective to that, the Cambria Hotel that's built over there, that beautiful facility over there, has 125 rooms. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but that's a little over 15 Cambrias put in Johns Pass, okay? It's not even possible. It couldn't happen. And I get, in trying to explain that to people is one thing. But here's the thing. And I had the young man that was given the presentation repeat this during that presentation that day. what has changed if this designation gets accepted? By the way, the only thing we approved was the fact that the city was going to go to the county and ask for this designation. Everybody's, oh boy, wait a minute. There's 26 other activity zones approved in Pinellas County. We're not unique. We're not new. The fact is, we should be asking the question, why hasn't Johns Pass already been an activity zone? Not why are we making it one, okay? So nothing will change from the get-go. You still have to, if you want to do something outside of what our scope says, you have to do a PD. You have to get it approved. You have to get it through, not only, first through our staff, which takes a very long period of time. Then it has to go through the planning and zoning board. And then after it gets through that, it has to come to us. The process is ironclad. It's law and order, and that's how it's going to go from here on in. So nobody wants Clearwater Beach. Nobody's going to bulldoze Johns Pass. It's going to be business as usual, and we're going to follow the rule book. That's it.
So for the folks that may not understand what an activity zone is, can you fill us in on that a bit?
Well, really what it is, it's, the way it's designed, for Johns Pass in particular, I'm not going to talk about any other activity zones because I don't really know, for example, the one in Treasure Island or the one in St. Pete Beach, how those work. But ours is very simple. So Johns Pass, for lack of a better word, was built kind of piece by piece, right? And they did some things in there that probably weren't to code and maybe weren't, they just built and they kept building and they kept doing different things, right? And there is a provision in our charter that says they can rebuild as they want. Well, okay, but FEMA's not going to adhere to our charter. FEMA's going to tell them if, for example, something like Fort Myers happened to us and we got wiped out, these guys would be forced to live up to FEMA standards. You couldn't just build all the ground floor things that you're building right now. Everything would have to be elevated. Well, the original plans of Johns Pass, there's not even supposed to be second floors on all of those buildings. It would literally come down to a question and answer session on how to rebuild it instead of, if we get this activity zone approved, we can rebuild it just as it is, okay? It's in the county code, it's zoned correctly, and it's done right. Right now, it's not zoned correctly, and that was the reason why we hired the consultant, because we needed to get this done to protect our businesses in Johns Pass.
Okay, that's a good answer on activity
Thank
zones. So we know more about that than we did. You stress finding new revenue streams as one of your top priorities. You mentioned the garage.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great idea. What other revenue streams do you think you see coming down the pike?
Well, this is, I've pontificated about this ever since I started becoming rec director. The one thing and the reason I became rec director wasn't because I had any recreation knowledge. They knew I knew how to run a business. I was approached by a couple people from the city. I said, I wasn't really interested in it. I don't really know anything about recreation. They go, we don't want you to know anything about recreation. We're building a $3 million facility down there, and we need to get revenue out of that facility in order to let people put their pitchforks in the corner and not try to turn it into a senior center. Because, honestly, that was kind of the plan. Everybody wanted this not to be a recreation center, not to cater to children, because what I was told at the beginning was, well, we don't have that many kids in town anyway. I'm like, okay. Right. These are honest conversations that I had with folks. And I was like, okay. Well, so what we did was I took the rec center at the time, and it was averaging about $172,000 a year in revenue. By the time I left, we were almost up to $500,000. And this wasn't just from Madeira Beach residents. These are from the surrounding towns, the Reddingtons, and we're bringing their kids over here. We did something with the Little League, for example, that nobody's ever done. Little Leagues are a drain on financial resources of a city. Well, what I proposed to our Little League was, look, you guys do what you do best. Go out and teach your kids how to play baseball. Go have fun with them out there. Let us handle all the collection of the money. Let us, we'll give you a budget to order uniforms every year and everything like that. But let us handle all the finances. So what we ended up doing, we turned it into, and we gave them kind of a salary cap. As many kids as came in, we gave them a percentage to give to them so that they could run the league. We gave them all the revenues from the snack bar in order for them to do whatever other activities they wanted to on the side. But it works. It's a perfect relationship. And the city actually makes money off of Little League now. And, oh, by the way, we built a behemoth out there of, we got 350 kids on a waiting list now, where when they first came over, when they were Gulf Beach's Little League, there were 67 kids.
At a World Series, right?
And then won a World Series a couple of years ago. Yeah. So, and that's started when, when I was talking about in the beginning. But the parking garage was something that I got frustrated a lot when every time we needed money, somebody on the board would instinctively say, well, let's just raise parking rates a quarter. Okay. Well, eventually you're going to run out of things. You're going to hit it. You're going to hit a maximum. So I would always say, can't do it. Go find other revenues. Go find other revenue streams. But when this last one came up, and the mayor and Happy can be my witness, I said, okay, I'll raise it 50 cents. However, what we're going to do is we're going to segregate that money. We're going to put it into a special fund that we can't throw into the general fund and waste on something else. And we'll take that money and we'll start a process of getting the engineering done and building this parking garage on the backs of tourists, not on the taxpayer dollar. I believe right now, after 1 year, we've got about $500 and some odd thousand in that account. The parking garage is probably going to cost somewhere in the vicinity of $4 million. But at that rate, plus the parking garage money that's going to go into it, so the 50 cents an hour is segregated, but every dollar that's made in that parking garage goes to pay this down, should get paid down in 5 or 6 years, and then we have that revenue stream for eternity. Okay, and I don't know exactly how many spots. I think we're still in the engineering spots of it now, but there's only 575 paid parking spots in the city. We get a decent-sized parking garage, we can add to that significantly.
That's a good answer. So other than the garage, though, not to beat a dead
Well,
horse.
yeah. Look, I mean, we're on the legislative side, so I leave the administration part to my city manager and his staff. They'll come up with ideas.
Good, excellent. This one might be a little uncomfortable. I'm sorry to ask, and you can tell me it's none of my business, but
None of your business. Okay.
there was an alleged sunshine law violation,
Okay.
and it was filed about a year ago. And just curious about any updates that might be going on with that.
Well, that's a great question, and I can finally talk about it a little bit, which is good. Yes, we were served, myself, the mayor, Commissioner Price, and Commissioner Hodges were served papers that we allegedly violated the sunshine law. We could have easily settled this out of court and just paid a stipend, no admission of guilt, no admission of nothing, and we could have walked away from it. But I was adamant that the person that continues to sue the city has made a fortune off of us doing that exact thing. See, basically when somebody brings a case to a city, the city then hands it off to their insurance company, who then does an analysis and says, well, this is going to cost us $50,000 or $100,000 to defend. If they only want 10 grand, let's give them the 10 grand, let's not admit guilt and get on with our lives, and saves everybody money along the board. Well, with this one, I said, you know what, I'll put my own money in. We'll go to the Supreme Court. We didn't do anything wrong. I knew we didn't do anything wrong. So the case went in front of the Sixth Circuit Court. They found, it wasn't that they found they didn't want to rule on it. They found in our favor, and they dismissed his case. He went back for a rehearing, and they dismissed it again. Now, he's filed an appeal, which is certainly his right to do. But as I said a year and a half ago, I feel very comfortable with our position. I feel very comfortable with what the outcome's going to be. The facts of the case haven't changed, so I don't expect the outcome to change either. So, in short, we won, he lost, and ha-ha.
Very good. So your opponent stated on numerous occasions, when he's not agreeing with you, is that the 3-minute time limit on comments at commission meetings is too short, and that we're not actually hearing the citizens' concerns or opinions. What's your thoughts on that, and is there any chance of changing that as mayor?
Well, that's actually a really good question. I mean, so we got to look at it in a couple different ways. Now, I've been really adamant that the internet is probably the worst thing that's ever happened to municipal government ever, because people are allowed to post whatever they want and give any opinion that they want, factual or not. And, it ends up making it a lot more difficult for us to do our jobs when we're not, a lot of people say, oh, your opinion on this. I go, well, look, I don't really form my opinions on anything. I do basically everything according to the book. If you'll watch up there, the only time I really ever comment on something, okay, the staff does all the work. Okay, let's give Robin and his team all the credit. They do all the work. They hand us a recommendation. Now, we have to read, we have to be educated on it, and we have to know what we're talking about. But 90% of the time, maybe even more, I'll agree with staff recommendation because I'll have asked the questions and I'll have done my homework on it. Here's the problem. The good thing about the internet is, the internet, and I'm probably, and I'll say this out loud, I'm probably the most accessible public official in all of Pinellas County because I own a 24-hour convenience store. okay? People come in all the time, and they want to ask me questions, and I answer them. I'll be in the middle of a sale, okay, and I'll talk to them about what's going on in the city. So if you say you can't get a hold of me to discuss something with me, you're not trying hard enough. I will tell you that the amount of meetings that have been requested of me in the 4 years I've been on the board, I can count on both hands, okay? I mean, that's how many people have asked me, okay, to actually sit down and talk about it. That's the time. The 3 minutes is really, we're in the middle of a meeting, okay? If we just give an unlimited period of time like he's suggesting, we're going to be here all night. We've had 4.5-hour meetings with a 3-minute time limit. If we go the other way, it's going to be here all night. You have access to your commissioners. You have their email addresses. You have their phone numbers. Well, not their addresses, apparently. But you have access to all of this information. Reach out to your commissioners. That's what they're there for. Express your interest. Express what you're talking about. And then when you have your 3 minutes, you can say, I spoke to Vice Mayor Andrews about this. This is what I feel. This is what I'm doing, blah, 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 blah. But you'll also get the opportunity to get whatever your issue is explained to you a little bit so that you're not going up there and just touting off of something that you got all lathered up about from reading on the internet. Reach out to your commissioners. That's what they're there for. That's what we get those big paychecks for. So.
And you're joking when you say big paycheck.
Oh, no. It's big money.
Okay. I have one more, and then we're going to open it up to the crowd. So if you have a question, please see Jill in the back. She'll give you a card. Fill the card out, and we'll walk back to you and have you ask your question. So let me ask my last question.
Sure.
Commissioner-elect McGeehan will be taking over for District 3, and he's got some big shoes to fill. Have you had a opportunity to speak to him, and what advice would you give him?
Well, yeah, Eddie and I, before he ran, we had a couple of different meetings, and I also met with Anne Marie Brooks prior to her coming on or putting her name in the hat too. I think the biggest thing I stressed to both of them was being prepared. One of the things that people can tell right away is if you're sitting up there and you don't have the slightest clue what you're talking about, they know. And they also know that, what I always say is your actual personal feelings about certain topics are really not that relevant, okay? We're the legislative branch here. My personal opinion on certain things, good, bad, or indifferent, really doesn't apply when you're sitting up there, when we're in a quasi-judicial hearing, or we're doing something. This is letter of the law that we have to go by, okay? Yes, I can have an opinion on dogs on the beach, of course, right? I can have an opinion on litter. I can have an opinion on certain little things. But a lot of this stuff is legal stuff that, when this town was formed 50 years ago, I'm not, a lot of the stuff had to be cleaned up, and especially in the building codes and things like that. And there are some areas that we struggle in, but they're getting better, and they're going to continue to get better because, like I said, the city's on a great trajectory, and I just want to keep it rolling.
So I told a little untruth a second ago. I said that was my last question. I do have one more.
No problem.
So I'm curious. I read the Beach Beacon, and I've watched the prior debates, and I'm having difficulty other than development finding a true difference between you and your opponent. What would you say the main differences?
Well,
what would you want people to know?
Yeah, I mean, if I had one thing to say, it would be experience. I think what you're finding from my opponent is he's not. It's tough to come out from not doing anything or not being on a board or not being on a committee or not having been rec director or not having, served in any particular capacity in the city and just walk in and be sitting up there running meetings. It's very difficult to do. There's a lot of moving parts here. There's a lot of different things. We're a beach community, so that even makes it a little bit more difficult. And you can tell by a lot of the things that he's talking about and he's doing. I'm shocked, to be honest with you, that he's not here. I would think that the ability to sit in front of your constituents and in a big group and on TV and talk to them about what's going on is a very, very important fact. It's very, very important for you to get out there and to do that. He's talking one-on-one with a lot of people. And one-on-one's great, don't get me wrong. But one-on-one is pretty much a recipe for if somebody tells you there's a problem, say, I'll fix that and go on. You're not accountable for anything. I'm sitting here, I'm going to be accountable for everything I say tonight because people are going to hit the rewind button and say, here, you guys said that right here. But I think, I think the Thomas Sowell said this once, and it really stuck with me. If you want to help people, you tell them the truth, okay? If you want to help yourself, right, you tell them what they want to hear. And I think that's kind of what's going on. But so besides experience, though, I was reading, and honestly, anybody that knows me, this is my third election, okay? My last one, I was really, really fortunate I got to run unopposed. But the one before that, I ran against a fellow named Roger Pryor. And Roger was the president of the Bridge Club. Roger, I had known him when I was the rec director because we'd helped them set up the rooms and stuff for Bridge. So we got to become friendly. We differed politically completely, and that's why we ran against each other. But, I admired Roger. I respected Roger. But more importantly, Roger was a gentleman, okay? If he had a question, if he had a comment, he would come directly to me, and we'd talk about it, figure it out. But the one thing Roger and I sat down on day one and said, look, there's enough litigation going on in this city. There's enough bad information being spread. So if you have somebody in your camp that's doing something unethical or that's trying to hurt the other person, stop them. And there's no kids in the room. So it was basically cut the shit, okay? And Roger adhered to that, and so did I. So it was a free and fair election, and it was easy to do. I think with this one, it's going to be tough to say anything was free and fair because, we got a video of a guy stealing signs. I've got, I'm not going to turn this into a complaining session because that's not my style, but, I bought 300 signs. 300 signs went in the ground. There might be 100 up right now. Heck, somebody took one off my buddy's bar right over there. Like there's a big 8-foot sign that was drilled in with masonry bits, and they unscrewed it. They took the whole thing off, right? So I'm like, is this really a free and fair election? Is this really what we're kind of striving for? So I'm kind of sad he's not here, but I did, if I got a minute, I went through his website because I'm not really, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not really running against anybody. I'm kind of running on my own campaign. But I was looking at some of the things, and when we talk about experience, we're talking about, his first one was require fiscal accountability at all levels with monthly reports placed on the city website. Well, congratulations, sir, you win. Because not only do we have it monthly, we have it minute to minute. As soon as something is posted, as soon as Andrew posts something, it is immediately on the website right away. You can see an up-to-the-minute accounting. So that's the first thing that goes along.
Well, it would be fair to say that was a good suggestion then.
It was a great suggestion. It was already done. Right. Suggest all commissioners have the option of attending any and all staff meetings. And say it'd have to require a change in the mayoral handbook. John, do you know of a mayoral handbook that is out there? No, it doesn't exist. There's a Board of Commissioners handbook. We don't have a mayoral handbook. But you can attend staff meetings. It's in our charter. The city manager runs the city. He is the administrative body. We are the elective legislative branch. That's what we do. We're not supposed to be involved in day-to-day meetings. We can give recommendations, but we cannot give direction to city employees. And I think that my opponent's a little confused on what his role is going to be. It's not going to be emperor. You are the fifth Beatle, all right? If there's a 2-2 tie, you break it and you run the meetings and you throw out the first pitch at Little League. That's your job, okay? Outside of that, you're not really supposed to be bugging the city manager on a daily basis. It's just not supposed to happen. There's a few more, but that was kind of the gist of it.
Continue, please. This is interesting.
Oh, okay. So let's have some fun. Remind every department head and employee that decision-making process is citizen first driven, which on paper sounds terrific. But then he goes, provide equal representation of residents and businesses alike. Well, it just contradicts the first one. They said it's citizen driven. And it's not, look, the citizens obviously have a say in this, but it's city driven. It's for what's best for the city. And our staff is not, there's no agendas. These guys are professionals at their job. They provide recommendations to us. And obviously your feedback is important. But you got to remember, again, there's 3 cogs. All of them and they're all not swinging in the same motion. They're running counterclockwise. And I think it's important to remember that we're all in this together. We're all working towards something. And we're a beach town. Everybody just smile, relax, and get off your damn computers. That's all. Ensure complete transparency. Here's the best one. Implement a pilot program of same-day permit issuing, which sounds fantastic. What a great idea. But where in the heck, what planet is where you can do this? Yes, if you have a hot water heater that needs to be replaced, great. Go down there, have all the that's the biggest problem in the building department. You don't have the proper information when you get there. But if you do that, if you implement this one-day process, what happens to the more complex projects? You're going to stop everything, go to the one-day process, and you're going to keep delaying the people that have these long-term projects that are in effect, that need planning and zoning to work on, that need people to do it. The building department has struggled. They've struggled on a communication level. But April 1st, we just got informed last meeting, the new software is intact. You will be able to go online. You'll have to see exactly where your permit is, what the estimated time of delivery is. It should shore some things up. Is it going to eliminate all the problems? Absolutely not. But we're moving in the right direction. And that's the important thing. But a one-day permit, yeah, it's almost like I'm running against the guy that's running for student body president. Free ice cream on Thursdays, right? And we're going to get a vending machine in the cafeteria. And Tony Tuesdays, everybody named Anthony gets a cookie. You know, so it's like, well, right. But I mean, but the whole thing is, it's a matter of, we don't have a grip on, he doesn't have a grip on exactly what the role is going to be as the mayor of this town. And I think that's the biggest difference.
Ready for some questions from the audience?
Sure.
Okay, let's do it. We're going to come back here and we call your name out. Please raise your hand if you don't know who you are. I know most of you, but Amanda Loeffler has a question. We're going to come back here and let her ask her question. Actually, you're all the way over there, so I'll ask it for you if that's okay. And her question is, in what ways will you work with city leadership to keep millage down and other taxes under wraps?
Well, you know, there's a conception that our millage rate is high. Well, let's think about this for a second. Our millage rate in 1993 was about 2.45. Our millage rate right now is 2.75. Now, I'm not going to play Monday morning quarterback and ask why it dropped to 1.79 at one point. Had we remained at that millage rate, we'd be totally fine right now and not looking for things, or not looking for money. Our problem is we have a lot of projects on deck, okay? When it's suggested, well, maybe roll back. The problem is you look at page 9 and you see $9 million worth of road projects that have been neglected. There's no question about it. There's been so many changes in the administration. There was 4 city managers in the course of 3 years, and things just weren't getting done. And you even harken back to a different time. People go, oh, I want it like it was in the 70s. I go, I'll do you one better. I'll bring it to like it was in the 50s. We're gonna have sand roads here if we don't make the corrections that we need to make. We had a debacle happen. You know, Crystal Island, we wanted to get that project done, and we did. But we went and got the money first, bragged about getting $15 million, and were surprised when all of our bids for Crystal Island came in $12 to $15 million instead of the $6 million that we had budgeted for it. Just silliness. And people were up here high-fiving the staff. That's $6 million. $6 million to a city of this size is enormous. Enormous what we could do with that money. So I don't mean to skirt your question, Amanda. I think, you know, if anybody knows anything about me and my budget preparation and how the staff really doesn't like me during budget hearings, I'm pretty tight with the dollar. And I think that is going to be what's going to be able to continue to keep your millage rate down. Also, the increased, you know, look, we're very lucky. We're not in the middle of Topeka, Kansas. We have parking revenue of a couple $1 million a year. That's going to continue to keep our millage rate down. And we've got to, but, you know, we're going to need more money. We've got to finish these projects. We've got to finish these roads. My long-term goal is to underground these utilities. It's probably going to be a 10-year project, and it's going to cost a lot of money, but we need to get it done because nothing's getting cheaper. Nothing's getting cheaper to do.
So the Slosslers, both David and Karen, have questions. Where are they? Oh, there they are. As far away as they could possibly be. Let me get over there.
Uh-oh, these guys are tough.
So David asks, can you expand on why the building department, okay, I ask this for you, David. Can you expand on why the building department has ownership on its fee revenue and that doesn't revert to the general fund? That's the question? Okay.
Okay. You always, yes. Okay, so we have different enterprise funds set up in the city, okay? The Marina Fund is one, for example. We have the building department, they have their own fund. It was set up this way mainly to, you know, so the building department, any money that comes into the building department has to be used for building department needs, okay? The building department's been really busy here recently. So they've had you know, even though we've been backlogged with a lot of requests and a lot of permits, this money has got to be used on building department type things. So when they're talking about a boat, and I hear this all the time, oh, why do you need a boat? Well, we're on an island. Why do you need a boat? Our marina had a grant for $100,000 for a boat. The boat was 125 grand, and the then commission turned it down because they didn't want to spend a marina without their own boat. That doesn't seem to make any sense. But the building department then takes that money, and they've been able to do some great things with it. Now, like I said, still have some issues in there that they got to work out, but they built that whole bottom floor that was built by the building department money. They're getting their own boat to start doing assessments of, and you know this very well, but from the water, you're able to see a little bit more from the backyards of people that you can't see from the front yard without invading somebody's backyard. So I think it's going to be a good thing. But yeah, it's an enterprise fund. It's the way it was set up a long time ago. I can't tell you exactly why, but it doesn't go into the general fund. They don't mix the revenues.
Okay. Karen had a question as well. And I often hear complaints about the number of city employees. So I'm curious, do we need them, or that many, and that diversity of talent to serve the city? And are we, i.e. Madeira Beach, employing more than necessary to serve the city?
That's a really good question, actually. My answer is pretty simple. I don't handle the administration portion of the city. I can tell you from a staff member at one time, we always seemed very busy, so I don't think that we have I don't think we're overstaffed or understaffed at this point. The biggest problem we have right now, and I think every employer is facing the same thing right now, is I'm not going to say lack of talent. I'm going to say lack of people willing to work. We'll put out, where in the past, if a city, because everybody has this misconception that cities are the greatest place to work in the world. But there are great benefits and there are great things, and you can grow within a city and you can move up a corporate ladder very quickly, basically because a lot of people move on to other things. But the important thing to remember is, we were putting out requisitions for jobs and not getting any responses. Where years ago, you put out, even for a trash collector, you'd have 100 responses because they're like, it's good money, okay? The hours are great, and frankly, they're treated like royalty around here. Everybody loves our garbage men. It's like, they're like firemen around here. They love them. So to answer the question, I really can't pinpoint whether we have too many or too little. We've done some salary surveys in the past. What I can tell you is we were way too top heavy for a while. We had, during the reign of terror there in 2017, they were hiring upper level employees at a rapid rate and not filling in the bottom levels. And that was causing a big stir. And they were promoting people. They were getting rid of director level people and promoting people without the same talent and paying them more. It really turned the pay scale upside down in this city. So hopefully that never happens again. I think we're recovering from it, but I think we're staffed pretty good, and I think we'll be good going in the future. But again, I can't get too deeply involved in that question. Thank you.
So this one is from Anonymous. Spelled Anonymas. What, if any, changes would you make at the fire department? I've heard your opponent, this is from Anonymous. I've heard your opponent wants to eliminate some of the positions and thinks the department is way too big. So that kind of builds on what Karen was asking.
Well, let me state this, okay? First and foremost, you're not going to find too many people in this room that have a greater respect for firemen than I do. And I don't want to embarrass my uncle, but my uncle's here from New Jersey. Came to see this tonight. My uncle was a fire chief in Nutley, New Jersey for a long time. And some of my fondest memories as a kid was him taking me to the firehouse. I was probably 8 years old, and all these guys took my money playing gin rummy, and I got to slide down the pole. But I mean, I always thought I was going to be a fireman because I had such a great time doing that. And that's translated too to, I worked with, most of these guys have been here, guys and gals, have been with our fire department for, at least since the time that I was working here. So I knew them all on a personal basis. And, I'll go out and do, 5Ks with them in full uniform and have some fun. I know I'm built more like a bowler than a runner, but I've got a great relationship with these guys. To make an observation, first of all, as a mayor on something that you don't have control over the administration of, is a little irresponsible. Secondly, I don't see these guys not doing anything. We have a very, very productive fire department. It runs very, very smoothly. The elimination of the executive assistant, to me, is crazy. I mean, who's going to take the calls? Who's going to do that when these guys are there? Now, I guess you could make the point, well, they're not always on the truck or they're not always doing anything, but they always seem busy to me, and if it ain't broke, you don't fix it. So that's all I'm really going to comment on it. Again, that's not a mayor's job to really make an assessment of the fire department, but I think it's kind of a silly idea, and it really doesn't have any merit.
Thank you. Also anonymous, you get labeled as pro-development, and maybe giving special favors. Is that even possible to do, or is this just a political attack?
It's impossible to do. And, to label me pro-development would mean that I've approved massive high-rises or massive developments. My friend, former Commissioner Price, really got side-saddled in that last election when somebody knowingly put a diagram of a hotel in Johns Pass that the board had never seen, and they said she had voted yes on it. And, Happy being such a professional didn't even bother to comment on it, but I think in some ways that might have cost her early the election, and that's not a free and fair election when you're putting out misinformation. To call me pro-development, please point to a project that I approved that is a 25-story hotel or a 15-story hotel or something that is not in the character of the city. Somebody said, oh, well, you approved that Schooner Hotel thing. I go, okay, that's cool. That was approved 5-0. I wasn't the only person who approved that because we went through a quasi-judicial hearing. They met all the requirements, okay? And we proceeded forward with it. And honestly, it's a great project. People say you don't listen. You guys don't listen to people. I go, wait a minute. These guys actually went to the condo. On the other side is the county park. On the other side was a set of condos. They actually went to the condo complex, had meetings with them, and developed something so that they didn't block out the view of the lower floor condos on that side. So, yeah, it was a little taller, but it kind of had cuts in it and grooves in it. It wasn't any more hotel rooms. And that's why, you look at the Cambria, for example. It's a perfect example of how if you get stuck in your mind that it's got to be five stories tall and you're not willing to negotiate with the people a little bit. So they negotiated a sixth floor. Okay, but with that, they were going to provide more green space. They're going to provide a big walkway that was going to take you basically from Madeira Way all the way down to the bridge, and then under the bridge over to where the Lever Rocks or the Holton property was. It was going to be beautiful, but no. Okay, no, we got to fight this. We got to make it 5 stories. Which, if you're looking at a building the difference between 5 stories and 6 stories, especially when you look across the street and there's an 11-story building, is nothing. But we actually. And people don't really realize this, and they call this guy a hero for stopping that. What hero? It doesn't make any sense. We've taken away green space, what everybody complains about, you're building concrete jungles. Well, they don't want to, but people buy properties, okay, with an intent to build on them. We want controlled development, and we're going to do that. We're going to stick to the rules. But please, if I'm going to be called pro-development or given special favors, I don't really know what I've done to actually deserve that title.
Well, the question was, is it even possible?
It's impossible. It's impossible. Nothing, by the end of the day, I'm 1 of 5 votes.
Right.
Okay? So it has to get through a whole lot of people before it gets to me. Right. And it's got to be approved by a whole lot of people. And to even say there are our city staff that actually gets the ball rolling, has any agenda at all, most of them don't even live in town. They're just doing their jobs. So right. It's kind of a silly observation.
So we have 4 questions left. So if anyone has a question, please see Jill. We're going to be a couple minutes early, so we'll get you out of here not only on time, a little early tonight, so you owe me a few minutes back for the next one. So let's do the 4 real quick, and we'll
sure.
See if we can move along, and maybe at that point everyone will have a chance to have other questions or at least say hello.
No problem.
The next one is, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, Robin Gomez is the best city manager we've ever had. What is your plan to keep him forever, please?
No, I hope he leaves tomorrow. He's been a pain. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, look, I've stated, I gave Robin an award the other day, and it was funny. I tease everybody. Everybody goes, anybody's heard this joke already, you can laugh again. But I was teasing him because everybody said, oh my God, I didn't think you could hire Ken according to the charter. I go, Ken? He goes, yeah, isn't Robin your brother? I go, oh, geez. So anyway, yes, I go, no, Robin and I aren't related. I mean, I don't, but he's a great guy. Anyway, but Robin has done an amazing job. And he's done an amazing job, not just blocking and tackling. What he's really done, he's raised the morale of our city employees to all new heights. I mean, he has, these people actually enjoy coming to work. We went through a dark period of time where people were leaving left and right. Some were getting fired, but the other ones were like, going, I don't even want to work here. Okay. And it did. And it caused probably a lot of the issues that we had as far as bringing people in. We were getting marked as a place you don't want to go. But he's restored that, and he's really done, the problem with a lot of city managers is they get way too political. Okay. And we had a very good string of that from, for the last 10 years. Robin stays out of everybody's business. Robin just does his work. Robin doesn't, I honestly, I don't meet with him that much because there's no reason to meet with him. He's got everything under control. So, I'll come in if he asks me, but for the most part, it's great. So, but the one thing that I got, completely blown away by was my opponent came in here during a workshop meeting the other day in full fireman gear, full fireman blue dress, and started berating me, and but he can berate me all he wants. I really don't care. I got thick skin, and I know Robin does as well. But he actually accused our city manager, our beloved city manager, of wrongdoing when he was just doing his job. He accused a very trusted employee of doing something illegal. Okay, let me just clear this up real quick. Okay, the reason that Mr. Rostek's not here tonight is because he got embarrassed. He got caught. He got caught lying, right? So he's going to use his uniform to get him out of the lie. He doesn't realize the fact that they did this right during the middle of a commission meeting. I saw two gentlemen walk out and 11 minutes later come back. And the one gentleman said, he looked me right in the eye and said, I have no affiliation with him at all. I saw it on tape. I mean, it took 5 minutes for those guys to pull the tape because I knew exactly what time they left and what time they came back. Okay, so I have a real problem with somebody looking me in the eye and lying. And, so we exposed him on it, and he got mad. So that's, I don't know. He says he fears for his family's life. I got to be honest with you. If I feared for my family's life, let me tell you something. I'd be sitting right in that chair right there. I'd be like giving me the what for on why I would do that to somebody. So it's hokey. I mean, it's an ongoing investigation. I'm not going to comment anymore on it. But, just once again, I feel very confident in our position. I feel once the facts get out, we'll be exonerated completely. And that's all I'll really say about it.
What incentives would you bring to the table to bring more veterans and veteran-owned businesses to our community?
Wow, that's a great question. Well, I'll tell you, we are really well represented veterans-wise around here. Be seen the American, I think that's the biggest American Legion around. We have the VFW. I think, the amount of veterans that are in the area are great. How do you incentivize them to come here? I don't really know that there's a whole lot of working space left in Madeira Beach, but I would do anything I could to get them here. One thing that I do that, and I'm not doing this as a self-promotion, but for the last 11 years, because I saw the problem. We have a lot of homeless vets that are here and that are in the city, and they kind of meander around, but I was feeding them all in the beginning, and I was like, well, this is kind of getting a little crazy. So what I ended up doing, I worked with Church by the Sea, and we started a food pantry for them, and we've been running it for almost 11 years now, and it's been great. I mean, the amount, so I give them food every day. They come, they pick up a box of food, and they go and they feed these guys. So I'd be more concerned, with, and this is more of a federal problem, I think. I don't want to get too in-depth with it, but I would rather be protecting the people that have protected us and making their lives better than a lot of the things that we're doing at a federal level. There's a lot of things you can do. We got a lot of property over there at Bay Pines. Build a shelter, build a dorm, build something. Trust me, I don't mind feeding them, but I can't feed them all. And I think that, at the end of the day, to be able to try to attract them to bring business here. I'm not sure that there's anything in our bylaws that we could do, but if there is, I'd be willing to listen.
Mayor Hendricks has discussed urgent care at the beach, which I think is a fantastic idea. What are your thoughts on that?
He's crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's easy on your way out to start recommending. No, I'm kidding. John's been on top of this for a while, and I'm not going to praise him any more than I already have, but with the amount, he's going to leave some big shoes to fill, whoever fills them. It's a great idea. Finding the spot for it, that's going to be our problem right now. When I moved here 12 years ago, half of Gulf Boulevard was boarded up and empty. We have seen a renaissance of sorts that, and a lot of people can take credit for that, and a lot of people can, throw their hat in the ring and said they had a part of it. This last journey has been, when you watch, I've watched John, and this is the biggest thing. You watch and you learn. Now, somebody said the other day, well, Mayor Hendricks went in there without any experience. Well, I don't even want to tell you how many committees John sat on. I think he sat on 4 at one time. Is that right? He sat on 4 committees at one time. John knew the inner workings of this city better than anybody. But you know what he did? He didn't just really kind of deal with the day-to-day things here. John got himself involved not only with like the state people, the county people, but that's how we got all of this funding. So, that he's a great role model as far as that, and a mentor. And if I do become elected, he isn't getting anywhere far from me because he's going to be my consigliere. He doesn't know that yet, but I'm going to put him to work. But yeah, he's formed all these relationships, and he did them all within within the 2-year period of time. I mean, John's Pass is getting dredged because of John Hendricks. Okay, the beach groins. There's a project's been going on, but he got the state appropriations for that, and that's a big thing to remember. If my opponent gets a call or gets something, who's he going to call? Who does he know? That's going to be the problem. I've got the connections with these people. I know all the mayors from the other town. Most of them have endorsed me. And I think that, going forward, that's going to be a big deal.
So we have one left, unless anybody would like to add to one, because we do have a couple minutes.
Okay.
And this is, can we please add more shade to Rock Park? That goes back to your recreation days.
Yes, we can. I think that we increased the budget over at Rock Park this year by substantially. There was a lull and there was a gap. This was built years ago. When I was a rec director, I was intimately involved in the project, and it was a project that, I didn't really know the full effect of. When you hear about it, you're like, oh no, that's sad. That's so sad. But you know what I learned about Rock Park? Rock Park is not a place of sadness. I've watched families go there, and it's, obviously to mourn a little bit, but it's a place of celebration. It's a deeply emotional thing that, God willing, I never have to experience, but the families that do, it's all like a bonded community. And a local developer had lost his son and came to the city and with this idea, and the city gave him, I think we had, I'm going to guess the number, about $150,000 worth of landscaping funds that we donated to Rock Park. And this guy went out and he raised $1.5 million and built what you see there today. The city dropped the ball, though, because then an election came and the funding stopped. And I think that caused some rift here. But we have, this budget has more money in it for it. If I'm elected, I'll continue to press for that money to continue in there. And yes, we do need more trees. We need to do something about, we have a fountain that hasn't worked in probably 5 years. We've got a couple things that need repair, and I think we have the money to do it. And I think there's actually some bids out to get a lot of that stuff down now, but it's not going to end at the end of this fiscal year.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the crowd in closing?
No, I didn't want, and I'm glad this didn't turn into a complaint session, because that's not going to do anybody any good. The city's in great shape. We're very sound. We have parking revenue that we have. If we need more money, we could always go there, but I think we're going to increase revenue lines. But I asked for your vote, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the mayor to hand me over the wheel, and it's going to keep driving. So hopefully we can do that. Hopefully we can keep this going forward. We don't need another 2017 to hit us, because it took 3 years to get to get away from it and to fix it. So let's keep moving on. We're in a great beach town. We got a lot of enthusiasm going on. Got a lot of great people, and hopefully, we're gonna keep it going. Okay, thank you all.
Vice Mayor Andrews, thank you for your time. Thank you for your honesty. Best of luck to you on next Tuesday.
Thanks, Brad.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that concludes our session. Vice Mayor will be here to answer any questions if you want some one-on-ones. He'll stay as long as you like, I'm sure. So you got to get to work at midnight? Okay. Well, thanks for coming, folks.